The call came on a Tuesday evening, just as I was finishing up another 12-hour shift at the hospital. As a trauma nurse in Chicago's busiest ER, I was used to crisis and chaos. But nothing could have prepared me for the storm my family was about to unleash. "Emily, we need to talk." My mother's voice was sharp, that familiar tone of disapproval I'd grown so accustomed to over my 32 years. "Your father and I have made a decision." I closed my eyes, leaning against the break room wall. My scrubs were still splattered with blood from the gunshot victim we saved 2 hours ago, and all I wanted was to go home and sleep. "Can this wait, Mom? I just finished a double shift." "No, it cannot wait. We've decided to sell the house and move in with Jessica." The world tilted slightly. I gripped my phone tighter. "What? Why? The house is paid off, and you've lived there for 30 years. "Well, if you must know, we've been having some financial difficulties." Mom's voice turned accusatory. "Not that you'd notice, being so wrapped up in your own life. Jessica suggested we sell the house and invest the money. She's going to manage our retirement accounts." A cold feeling settled in my stomach. Jessica, my younger sister by 2 years, had always been the responsible one in my parents' eyes. Never mind that she'd never held a real job, bouncing between M&M schemes and her husband's various business ventures. Meanwhile, I put myself through nursing school, worked my way up to charge nurse, and managed to buy my own condo by 30. "Mom, that doesn't sound like a good idea. Jessica doesn't have any financial experience. Your SSTR is Maori responsibility." Mom screamed, her voice so loud I had to pull the phone away from my ear. "She's married, she has children, she makes time for family. Not like you, always working, always too busy. We're moving our retirement savings to her account. She'll manage everything." "Mom, please listen." "No, you listen. Jessica has a plan. She's found some amazing investment opportunities. High returns, guaranteed. But we need to act fast." Every red flag in my mind started waving. "What kind of investments?" "I don't have to explain our financial decisions to you," Mom snapped. "Jessica understands the market. She's been studying cryptocurrency and foreign exchange trading." My heart sank. Last Christmas, Jessica had spent the entire family dinner talking about some forex trading scheme she joined. I tried to warn my parents then that it sounded like a scam, but they brushed me off. "The moving truck comes tomorrow," Mom continued. "Jessica's converting her basement into an apartment for us. It's all arranged. Tomorrow, but what about all your things? The house isn't even on the market yet. Jessica's husband knows a cash buyer. The deal is already done. We got a good price, and Jessica will invest it for us. She says we could double our money in 6 months." I pressed my fingers to my temples, fighting an approaching headache. "Mom, please. At least talk to a financial advisor first." We did. Jessica introduced us to her investment mentor. He explained everything. Mom's voice turned cold. "Not that it's any of your business. You made it clear where we stand in your priorities. Jessica takes care of us. Jessica makes time for family. Jessica hasn't had a real job in 10 years. I finally snapped. Her husband's last 3 businesses went bankrupt. How can you trust them with your life savings? The silence that followed was arctic. When Mom spoke again, her voice was trembling with anger. "I'm done having this conversation. We're moving in with Jessica tomorrow. Don't bother coming by. We've already packed everything we're taking." The line went dead. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. This was bad. Really bad. I'd spent years watching Jessica manipulate our parents, playing the perfect daughter while I was cast as the neglectful one. But this was different. This was their entire retirement at stake. "Hey, Emily, you okay?" Sarah, one of the other nurses, stuck her head into the break room. "You look like you've seen a ghost." I forced a smile. Family stuff, nothing new. But it was new. This wasn't just Jessica borrowing money for another failed business venture or guilt-tripping our parents into buying expensive gifts. This was their house, their savings, their future. I drove home in a daze, my mind racing. The rational part of me said to let it go. They were adults making their own choices. They'd made it clear they didn't want my input. But the daughter in me, the one who remembered weekend pancake breakfasts and Dad teaching me to ride a bike, couldn't just stand by. My condo felt empty and cold when I walked in. I'd bought it 2 years ago, a small but modern space with a view of the city. My parents had never visited. Too far from family, they'd said, though Jessica lived twice the distance in the suburbs. I opened my laptop and started searching. Property records, business registrations, bankruptcy filings, everything was public record if you knew where to look. Jessica's husband, Tom, had indeed filed for bankruptcy 3 times in the past decade. Their current address had a lion against it, and Jessica's latest business venture was registered to a P.O. box in the Cayman Islands. My phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. Mom said you were being difficult again. Stay out of this. They chose me to help them, not you. I ignored it, continuing my research. The more I dug, the worse it looked. The investment mentor Mom mentioned was connected to multiple fraud investigations. The Forex trading platform Jessica promoted had hundreds of complaints filed with the SEC. Another text from Jessica, don't you dare try to ruin this. They finally see who the responsible daughter is. I thought about all the family dinners I'd missed because of work. The birthdays when I could only stop by briefly between shifts. The times I'd had to say no to lending money because I was still paying off student loans. Each time, Jessica had been there to play the hero, to be the good daughter. But I'd been the one who paid for Dad's emergency root canal last year when their insurance denied it. I'd been the one who researched Mom's arthritis treatment options and found a specialist. I'd been the one quietly contributing to their property taxes every year, never telling them because I knew they'd reject charity from their unreliable daughter. My phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. Hello, Emily? It's Tom. Listen, you need to back off. Your parents made their choice. Jessica knows what she's doing. Does she, Tom? Like she knew what she was doing with that Juice Clean's pyramid scheme last year, or your failed food truck business that cost them 20 grand. That's different. This is legitimate investment. If it's so legitimate, why is the company registered in the Cayman Islands? Why does your investment mentor have 3 different names and a trail of SEC violations? Silence. You stay out of this, Tom finally said, his voice low and threatening. Your parents signed everything over to us already. There's nothing you can do. The line went dead. I sat in my dark living room, staring at the city lights below. Tom was right about one thing. There probably wasn't anything I could do legally. If my parents had willingly signed over their assets, if they'd chosen to trust Jessica. My phone lit up with another text, this time from Dad. Your mother is very upset. Why can't you be supportive like your sister? I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my email and started documenting everything. The fraudulent investment scheme, Jessica's history of failed businesses, Tom's bankruptcies, the suspicious offshore accounts. I might not be able to stop them now, but when this inevitably fell apart, there would be a paper trail. 3 days later, I drove past my childhood home. A sold sign stood in the yard. The windows were dark, the garden Mom had tended for decades already wilting from neglect. A piece of my heart broke, knowing I'd never again walk through that front door, never sit on the porch swing where Dad had taught me to read, never smell Mom's chocolate chip cookies baking in the kitchen. My phone buzzed. A group text from Jessica to the extended family, so blessed to have Mom and Dad moving in with us. Family takes care of family. The responses poured in. Cousins, aunts, uncles, all praising Jessica's devotion, her generosity, her responsibility. No one questioned why our parents were suddenly selling their paid-off home. No one asked about the investments Jessica promised would double their money. I turned off my phone and drove to work. In the ER, at least, things made sense. Trauma, treatment, recovery. Clear problems with clear solutions. Not this mess of family dynamics and financial manipulation that I could see coming but seemed powerless to stop. Rough day, Dr. Martinez asked as I checked supplies in the trauma bay. Rough week, I replied, not looking up from my inventory count. Family stuff? I nodded. Want to talk about it? I hesitated. Dr. Martinez had been my mentor since I started at the hospital. She'd supported my decision to specialize in trauma care when everyone said it was too stressful, too demanding. My sister convinced my parents to sell their house and give her control of their retirement savings, I finally said. She's involved in some sketchy investment scheme, but they won't listen to me. They think I'm just jealous because they chose her to help them. Dr. Martinez was quiet for a moment. Sometimes we have to let people make their own mistakes, even if those mistakes will destroy them. Document everything, she said firmly. Keep records. When things go wrong, and they will, your parents will need help picking up the pieces. I thought about the file I'd already started, the screenshots of Jessica's suspicious investments, the records of Tom's bankruptcies, the complaints against their mentor. I just wish they could see what's happening, I said quietly. They will. Eventually. Dr. Martinez squeezed my shoulder. But right now, you need to focus on what you can control. Be ready for when they need you. The trauma alert sounded before I could respond. As I rushed to meet the incoming ambulance, I pushed thoughts of my family aside. Here, at least, I knew what to do. Here, I could actually help people who wanted to be helped. But late that night, as I finally crawled into bed, my phone lit up with one last text from Jessica. Everything's been transferred. Our parents are safely settled in their new home. Don't bother trying to visit. You're not welcome here. I set my phone aside and stared at the ceiling, knowing that somewhere in the suburbs, in Jessica's basement apartment, our parents were falling asleep thinking they'd made the right choice. Thinking their responsible daughter would secure their future. 3 months. That's how long Dr. Martinez had predicted it would take for everything to fall apart. I hoped she was wrong, but in my gut, I knew she wasn't. All I could do now was wait, document everything, and be ready when the inevitable crisis came. Because it would come, and when it did, I would be there, not to say, I told you so, but to help pick up the pieces of my family's shattered trust. The first signs of trouble came 6 weeks after my parents moved in with Jessica. I was finishing up paperwork after a night shift when my cousin Michael called. Hey Em, have you talked to Uncle Dave and Aunt Linda lately? His voice was hesitant, unusual for my typically outspoken cousin. They're not speaking to me, I replied, rubbing my tired eyes. Why? It's probably nothing, but Uncle Dave asked me for a loan last week. Said something about a temporary cash flow issue until their investments matured. When I asked how much, he got weird and changed the subject. My stomach tightened. Did he say anything about what kind of investments? Just that Jessica had found them some amazing opportunities. High-yield forex trading or something. I don't know much about that stuff. Michael paused. Look, I know there's tension between you and Jessica, but this doesn't feel right. Uncle Dave's never asked me for money before. How much did he want to borrow? 15,000. I nearly dropped my phone. What? Yeah, I know. That's why I'm calling you. Something's not adding up. After hanging up with Michael, I pulled up the file I'd been building. 6 weeks. It hadn't even been 2 months, and already my parents needed to borrow money. I opened my laptop and started searching financial forums, looking for mentions of the investment company Jessica had recommended. The results made my blood run cold. Multiple threads described the same pattern. Initial promises of huge returns, early profits shown on paper, encouragement to invest more. Then suddenly, accounts frozen, communications stopped, money gone. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Somehow, I knew before opening it that it would be linked to my family. This is Kevin Matthews, your parents' investment advisor. Please stop looking into our company's background. This interference could jeopardize your family's returns. I stared at the message, anger building in my chest. Taking a screenshot, I added it to my growing file of evidence. Then I did exactly what they didn't want me to do. I dug deeper. 2 hours and several cups of coffee later, I had names, addresses, and a clear picture of the scam. Kevin Matthews was actually Keith Morrison, a 3-time convicted fraudster. The investment company's impressive-looking website had been registered just 4 months ago. Their listed office address was a vacant storefront in Delaware. But would any of this matter to my parents? They'd chosen to believe Jessica, to trust her judgment over mine. And Jessica, was she a victim too or knowingly part of the scam? My phone rang again. Dad? Emily? His voice was different, smaller somehow. Are you busy? I just finished my shift. What's wrong? A long pause. Nothing's wrong. We haven't talked in a while. How's work? In the background, I heard Jessica's voice, sharp and irritated. The call ended abruptly. 5 minutes later, my phone lit up with a text from Jessica. Stop poisoning Dad against me. They're happy here. The investments are fine. But they weren't fine. Over the next 2 weeks, I heard through family channels that my parents had approached several relatives for loans. Each time the story was the same, just a temporary cash flow issue until their investments paid out. Then came the morning I walked into work and found Mom waiting in the ER lobby. "What's wrong?" I rushed to her, already scanning for injuries. "Are you hurt?" No, she waved off my concern, but I noticed her hands trembling. I was just in the neighborhood. Mom hadn't been in the neighborhood of my workplace in the 3 years I'd been at this hospital. Something was very wrong. "Let me buy you a coffee," I said, leading her to the hospital cafe before she could protest. Once we were seated with steaming cups, Mom seemed to deflate. She looked older than I remembered, tired in a way that went beyond physical exhaustion. "Jessica doesn't know I'm here," she said quietly. She checks our phones now. Says it's to protect us from scammers." The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so heartbreaking. "Mom, what's really going on?" She stared into her coffee. "The investment payments are just delayed. Kevin says it's normal, that these things take time. But," her voice cracked, "we can't access any of our accounts. Jessica says she's handling it, but what?" "Your father's heart medication. The prescription needed refilling last week. Jessica said she'd take care of it, but she keeps making excuses. Says the investment payout will cover it, that we just need to wait a few more days." Mom's hands were shaking so badly that coffee sloshed over the rim of her cup. He's been cutting his pills in half to make them last longer. Ice flooded my veins. Dad's heart condition wasn't something to play around with. Those medications were literally keeping him alive. "Give me his prescription information," I said, pulling out my phone. "I'll handle it." "Jessica won't like that." "Jessica isn't the one who'll have to treat Dad when he has a heart attack." My voice came out sharper than intended, and Mom flinched. I softened my tone. "Please, Mom, let me help." She dug through her purse and handed me a crumpled prescription bottle. I sent a quick text to Dr. Martinez, who I knew would help expedite the refill. "There's something else," Mom said, her voice barely a whisper. "The house money. I think it's gone." "What do you mean gone?" "Jessica said it was invested, but when I asked to see the statements, Mom's eyes filled with tears. She got angry, said I didn't trust her. And Tom, he's been drinking again, getting scary when anyone asks questions." The pieces were falling into place. The desperate requests for loans, the blocked access to accounts, the escalating efforts to control information and communication. "Mom, listen to me. This isn't going to get better. That investment company—" "Don't." Mom stood up suddenly. "I shouldn't have come." "Jessica's right. You're just jealous that we trusted her instead of you. The investments are fine. Everything's fine." But her hands were still shaking as she gathered her purse. "Your father's medication." I called after her. "I'll have it delivered to." "No." She turned back, panic in her eyes. "Jessica checks the mail. She can't know I came here. I'll figure something out." I watched her hurry away, her shoulders hunched as if carrying an invisible weight. As soon as she was gone, I called Dr. Martinez. "I need a favor," I said when she answered, "and I need you to not ask too many questions." An hour later, I was picking up Dad's prescription, paid for out of my own pocket and filled under Dr. Martinez's name to avoid detection. I drove to my parents' old neighborhood and parked near the house where they'd lived for 3 decades. The new owners were already making changes. The maple tree Dad had planted when I was born was gone. The flower beds Mom had tended with such care ripped out to make way for modern landscaping. My phone buzzed. A text from Tom. "Your mother told Jessica about your little meeting. Stay out of our business." Another buzz. "Jessica, stop interfering. You're just making things worse." And finally, one from Dad's phone, but clearly not written by him. "We're happy here. The investments are doing great. Don't contact us again." I turned off my phone and looked at the prescription bag on my passenger seat. Somehow, I had to get these medications to Dad without Jessica or Tom knowing. And I had to figure out how much of my parents' money was really gone before it was too late. But as I sat there, watching strangers dismantle my childhood home, I realized something that sent a chill down my spine. This wasn't just about missing money or delayed investment returns anymore. This was about control, isolation, and manipulation. And my parents were trapped in Jessica's basement while their resources disappeared and their health hung in the balance. The question was, how could I help people who still believed they didn't need saving? Everything changed on a rainy Tuesday night, exactly 3 months after my parents had moved in with Jessica. I was in the middle of a busy ER shift when the impossible happened. Jessica showed up at my hospital. She looked terrible. Her normally perfect makeup was smeared, her designer clothes rumpled. The confident smirk I was used to seeing had been replaced by something I never expected: fear. "We need to talk," she said, grabbing my arm. Privately. I led her to the break room, my mind racing. For Jessica to come to me, something had to be terribly wrong. "The money's gone," she blurted out as soon as the door closed. "All of it. Kevin, or whatever his real name is, he's disappeared. His phone's disconnected. The office is empty. Everything's gone." I felt a strange mix of vindication and horror. "How much?" Jessica slumped against the wall. "Everything. The house money, their retirement accounts, even the emergency fund." She ran a shaking hand through her hair. "Tom's losing it. He's drinking again. Talking about running before the police get involved. Mom and Dad don't know yet, but they're getting suspicious. They keep asking to see the account statements." "How could you be so stupid?" I finally exploded. "I tried to warn you. I sent you proof that these people were scammers. I thought I could handle it." Jessica shot back. "Kevin promised. He showed me statements. The returns looked so good." She buried her face in her hands. "Oh God, what have I done?" I wanted to scream at her, to shake her, to make her feel every bit of the pain she caused our parents. But there would be time for that later. Right now, we needed to act. "Have you filed a police report?" Jessica's head snapped up. "No, I can't. If Mom and Dad find out." "They're going to find out," I said firmly. "The question is whether they find out from us or when they're homeless and broke." "But they'll hate me," Jessica whispered. "Maybe they should." Harsh, but true. Jessica had stolen our parents' future with her arrogance and greed. But standing there, looking at my little sister, broken and terrified, I felt my anger shift into something more complicated. "Go home," I said. "Get Tom sober. Gather every piece of documentation you have about these investments, every email, every statement, every text. I'll be there in the morning." "You're going to help?" Jessica sounded surprised. "I'm not helping you," I clarified. "I'm helping our parents and Jessica. If you try to run, if you try to hide anything, I will personally make sure you face every possible consequence for this." After she left, I made 3 calls. First, to my lawyer friend Sophia, who specialized in financial fraud. Second, to a detective I knew from the ER who worked white-collar crimes. Finally, to Dr. Martinez. "I need tomorrow off," I said. "It's happening." She didn't need to ask what it was. "Take the next 3 days. Your shifts are covered." I spent the night preparing. I organized my file of evidence, wrote a detailed timeline, and made copies of everything. By dawn, I was pulling into Jessica's driveway. Tom's car was gone. Jessica met me at the door, looking even worse than the night before. "He left," she said flatly, "took what was left in our accounts and disappeared. One less problem to deal with. Where are Mom and Dad?" "Still asleep. The basement apartment has a separate entrance." "Good. Show me everything." The next 2 hours were a crash course in how to destroy lives through financial fraud. Jessica had emails promising impossible returns, fake statements showing growing balances, and threatening messages when she started asking questions. The scheme was bigger than I'd imagined, with dozens of victims across multiple states. "Your name is on everything," I said, looking through the documents. "You signed all the transfer authorizations." "I know." Jessica's voice was hollow. "I'm going to jail, aren't I?" Before I could answer, we heard the basement door open. Mom's voice floated up. "Jessica? Is someone here?" We heard voices. Jessica looked at me, panic in her eyes. I stood up. "It's time." "Please," he whispered. "Can't wait." "No," I cut her off. "They deserve the truth. All of it." Mom appeared in the doorway, Dad behind her. They froze when they saw me. "Emily? What are you doing here?" Mom's eyes darted between Jessica and me. "What's going on?" "Sit down," I said gently. "We need to talk." What followed was the hardest conversation of my life. Jessica, to her credit, confessed everything: the scam, the lost money, Tom's disappearance. Mom went very quiet. Dad's face turned gray. "All of it?" he finally asked. "Everything's gone." Jessica nodded, tears streaming down her face. The house money? Our retirement? Another nod. Dad clutched his chest. My medical training kicked in and I was beside him instantly, checking his pulse. I'm calling an ambulance, I announced, already dialing. No, Dad protested weakly. We can't afford. I can, I said firmly, and we're not taking chances with your heart. While we waited for the ambulance, I outlined what would happen next. The police were already investigating. Sophia, my lawyer friend, would help them pursue legal options. And most importantly, they weren't homeless. You're coming to my condo, I told my parents. I have a spare room. It's small, but it's yours for as long as you need it. But your work schedule, Mom began. We'll figure it out. I turned to Jessica. The detective will be here this afternoon. Tell him everything. If you cooperate fully, it might help when this goes to court. The ambulance arrived. As the paramedics loaded Dad onto the stretcher, Mom turned to Jessica. How could you? She asked, her voice breaking. We trusted you. Jessica said nothing, just stood there crying as our parents' faith in her finally shattered. In the chaos of getting Dad to the hospital, dealing with the police, and moving my parents to my condo, one moment stands out clearly. Mom, sitting in my spare room that evening, looked up at me with tears in her eyes. We were so wrong about you, she said softly. All this time you were the responsible one. I sat beside her and took her hand. Get some rest, Mom. Tomorrow, we start fixing this. And we would fix it somehow. But first, we had to face the full magnitude of what Jessica had done, not just to our parents' finances, but to our family's trust in each other. 6 months after the investment scheme collapsed, I sat in a courtroom watching my sister plead guilty to financial fraud. The prosecutor had offered her a deal in exchange for helping them catch Kevin Matthews and his accomplices. She faced 18 months in prison instead of the possible 10 years. Tom was still missing, presumably somewhere in Mexico with what was left of their money. The divorce papers Jessica filed from jail seemed almost anticlimactic. Mom squeezed my hand as Jessica was led away in handcuffs. I still can't believe she did this to us. I know, Mom. The past 6 months had been a journey of rebuilding, not just finances, but relationships and trust. My small condo had become home to all 3 of us. Dad's health had stabilized with proper medication and less stress. Mom had found a part-time job at a local bookstore, insisting on contributing something to the household. We'd managed to recover about 30% of their money through insurance and victim restitution funds. It wasn't enough to buy back their house or fully fund their retirement, but it was a start. I'd helped them set up new accounts, this time with legitimate financial advisors and proper safeguards. The biggest change wasn't financial, though. It was in how we related to each other. Gone were the accusations of being unreliable or too busy. Instead, we developed a routine that worked for everyone. Dad learned to cook and had dinner ready when I came home from late shifts. Mom kept the place spotless and managed my chaotic schedule. I provided the stability they'd always accused me of lacking. The detective called this morning, I told them as we left the courthouse. They caught Kevin in Florida. He had millions stashed in offshore accounts. They're working on recovering it for the victims. That's good news, Dad said quietly. He'd aged years in these past months, but lately I'd seen sparks of his old self returning. But you know what's better news? Your mother and I are pre-approved for that senior apartment complex we looked at. I felt a mix of emotions, pride in their independence, sadness at the thought of them moving out, relief that they felt secure enough to take this step. You don't have to, I started, but Mom cut me off. We want to, she said firmly. You've done so much for us, Emily. It's time we stand on our own feet again. Besides, she smiled, the complex is only 10 minutes from your condo. We'll still see you all the time. And we'll still have Sunday dinners together, Dad added. I'm getting pretty good at lasagna. He was. Who knew my father had a hidden talent for Italian cooking? That evening, after they'd gone to bed, I sat on my balcony looking at the city lights. My phone buzzed with a text from the prison chaplain. Jessica wanted to see me. I hadn't visited her since she'd been incarcerated. Part of me wanted to ignore the request, to let her sit with the consequences of her actions. But another part remembered the little sister who used to follow me around, who cried when I left for college, who somewhere along the way had lost herself to greed and insecurity. I'll think about it, I texted back. Maybe someday we'd rebuild that relationship too. Not now, not soon, but someday. For now, I had my parents back, not as the critical, dismissive people they'd become under Jessica's influence, but as the loving, supportive parents I remembered from childhood. Mom poked her head out onto the balcony. Tea. Love some. She brought out 2 steamy mugs and settled into the chair beside me. We sat in comfortable silence, watching the city below. You know what I realized? She said finally. All those years we called you unreliable, you were the rock we could always count on. We just couldn't see it. Water under the bridge, Mom. No, she shook her head. Some things need to be said. Your father and I were wrong. You're the most responsible, caring daughter we could have asked for. We're so proud of you, Emily. I felt tears prick my eyes. How long had I waited to hear those words? I love you guys, I said simply. We love you too, sweetheart. Sometimes the worst moments in life lead us to the best ones. My family had been shattered by greed and betrayal. But from those broken pieces, we built something stronger, truer, and more precious than before. It wasn't perfect. We still had challenges ahead, rebuilding retirement savings, dealing with Jessica's eventual release, navigating our new family dynamic. But we faced those challenges together, with clear eyes and honest hearts. And that was worth more than any investment could ever return.